Hello and welcome to this episode of Rewilding Voices with me, Jane McDowell. This is the podcast where I talk to people who are doing fantastic works, either in projects or in their own businesses, that can really shift the perspective that we all have around how we live our lives and how we can live our lives in a kinder, more compassionate way to ourselves, our health, to the environment, and to the way we live. And today I am just delighted to welcome my guest, Boris, who is doing amazing things in the world of rentals here in the UK. So, Boris, do introduce yourself and tell us about what it is that you do.
Thank you, Jane. Thank you for having me.
You're
This is
welcome.
very exciting. As you know, I run a letting agency
Yeah,
and I've done it for the last 13 years. And the very reason for me to set up a letting agency was to improve the experience of tenants and
yes.
along the way, the experience of landlords.
Mm,
Um, It's been a great success. So my company called Rent Happily is well established, got good reputation. We've just won an award, which
yeah,
is
congratulations. Yeah,
right behind me for how do I translate it? For innovation, um, excellence in service, and for excellence in reputation. So
yeah,
basically, doing a nice work to people, meeting their expectations. That
yeah,
I do.
yeah.
And and strangely enough, you would expect that that's what most people do, but it's not what you find in the lettings market.
No, and
So
it's quite extraordinary, isn't it? Because how we first met quite a few years ago now is so strange. Um, so I was really active in a local community union, and we
mhm,
were very much about helping renters to live better in their accommodation. And so we were really targeting lots of letting agents and landlords who, at the time, and unfortunately this still goes on, were really letting them down and exploiting them in many ways. And we'd called a meeting and we'd invited some letting agents to come along, and Boris was one of those letting agents who came along, and we were in a community hall full of very angry and despondent renters
mm,
who had questions to ask of why the system was so rigged to landlords, why it was seemingly so unfair for so many renters, why so many people were living in such poor conditions and paying such high rents, etc. And this was the first time I met Boris. And
mm,
then, having met you a few years later, when you started going out with a friend of mine, and I hadn't realized that it was you. And then that moment of realization, oh my goodness, you were one of those people in that room.
yeah.
And then you told me what you'd been doing and how differently you were working and how being in that room full of people kind of opened your eyes to what the rest of the market was doing. And yeah, I think that was really amazing. So tell us how it is that you're doing things differently from a lot of other letting agents.
So that meeting you mentioned, I will never forget it.
No?
And it did open my eyes. And on that day, I decided never to charge a tenant a fee again
Yeah.
when I was already charging the landlord for finding tenants.
Yeah.
That was 10 years ago.
That's giving me goosebumps.
Yes, it was beautiful, and
Yeah.
it just I have carried on connecting with groups from the renter side and from the landlord side to
Yeah.
hear both sides of the market, what they both need, because the
Yeah.
role of the letting agent is to match both ends. That's
Yeah.
what I do.
Mm.
So that day I stopped charging fees to tenants, and 5 years later, it's been 5 years now, the Tenants Fees Act came, and
Yeah.
letting agents were banned from charging fees.
Yes.
Exactly. A good thing, a good thing. What is happening now is something similar, but times 20 or times 30? Is it the biggest overhaul of the lettings regulation
Yeah.
in a full generation or two? probably. And there is a lot of change, and I will summarize it with one simple sentence, like tenants are about to become fully fledged clients in the letting market.
Good.
They, they will have the right to choose. If they don't like what they're being given, they will have the right to leave without cost.
Yes.
Now they are tied by periodic contract and renewal fees, and they
Yeah.
can only leave on that day, and they are often, it's very, very frustrating from a
Yeah.
tenant side.
Yeah.
It's not free. They are gaining that freedom. They want to leave, they are not pleased.
Yeah.
They leave no cost. Now they want to stay, they can stay
Yeah.
because
Good.
there is no Section 21 or no fault eviction anymore. Their life is not hanging, or their home is not their life, sorry.
Yeah.
Their home or their roof is not hanging on the decision of someone else because they like them or not.
Yeah, that's so important, isn't it? Because it's so difficult. I mean, I'm very lucky. I own my own house,
Mm.
but so many of my friends who've rented, are stuck in this cycle of, I've signed up and in 6 months' time, that tenancy agreement finishes, and invariably they're allowed to carry on, but there's a huge price increase or something, or there's repairs that need doing, and they just never get done in that 6 months, and they have to
Exactly.
live with these crappy conditions. And I know this isn't the case for all landlords, but there are landlords out there who seem to just be content to treat their tenants like that as some kind of cash cow because they know there's such a demand. They chuck that tenant out. There's another one coming straight through the door who's.
So
And
I do agree with
yeah,
you that not everybody will do that.
yeah,
And most landlords will look after their property and
mm,
will want their tenant to stay and will want a good relationship. What we see is that the agents have an interest in renewing contracts because it brings them fees.
yes,
So that's something I've never done it because it doesn't make sense to renew a contract. It becomes periodic automatically.
yeah,
I've got tenants who've been for 12 years in the same houses, others for 10 years. The average at Rent Happily is about 5 years.
that's fantastic.
If
Mm,
they are happy, I'm happy, the landlord is happy. I mean, that's what we wanted, right?
yeah, absolutely.
That's what we're in for. So why to rock the boat? It is
Yeah,
not
absolutely.
necessary. And the law is bringing those two essential changes. The tenant can leave or can stay. Therefore, it will automatically bring standards up because you have to not only give good properties to tenants,
Yeah,
but also look after them and treat them fairly. Because the day they don't like it, they leave, and landlords won't like it because they will have to look for new tenants, etc. So it will encourage long-term tenancies.
yeah,
So it is a good thing. It's a huge learning curve for agents.
yeah,
They will have to make that happen,
yeah,
and and that's what my agency basically. I've written an article. It's on the Rent Happy's website that Rent Happily is already at the level of expectation of the bill because we've been doing that since we set up. But
yeah,
so it's not difficult. It's possible. That's it's possible. It works actually very well because both parties are actually looking in the long term to meet their expectation. It works well.
yeah. I'm going to do something a little unconventional for this podcast. I'm going to leave the screen for 1 second to shut my window. There's an enormous thunderstorm and the rain is just coming down, and I need to shut the window. 1 second.
Do that, yeah. I can see the oh yes, the rain is pouring down. I
Hey.
will show it.
Yeah,
It's really pouring down.
yeah, same here. Yeah. Anyway, that's a bit better. So sorry
I,
for anyone who's listening if there was a lot of noise interference from the storm. Anyway, I'll see if I can edited out somehow. I'm not sure. Anyway, so you're in a position now to help other letting agents to have a kinder, more compassionate approach to how they're renting out because they have to by law now.
Yes. So
Awesome.
hopefully, it will come from the right place, from the willingness to serve and to
Yeah,
give what the tenant is asking for. I
yeah,
believe within 2 or 3 years, it will obviously become the norm.
yeah,
And the better deals, the better agencies, the better landlord will have first pick because they will have the preference of their tenants. Tenants with that right will have higher expectation.
yeah.
You won't be able to do bidding wars. You know that practice that some agents do. I don't know if landlords do it. I've never been into one, fortunately.
What is this? Explain it.
It's also something that will be forbidden by law. They had to bring a law to forbid putting all the tenants you can in a room or in a house and say, okay, who is bidding for more? Because this
Oh,
house
yeah,
was advertised for 1,500. Who offers more? It's like an auction, but a live auction
yeah,
with people
yeah,
totally unprepared. And
mm,
people bid above their means. So it actually puts
yeah,
the whole thing at risk.
yeah,
It's an awful situation. It's bad on so many terms. I've also written an article a couple of years ago because it was a trend in the entire market.
yeah,
So this is being forbidden. Agent won't or landlord, no one will be able to do bidding wars and
yeah,
ask or even accept more money than what the rent was advertised for,
yeah. That makes sense. Yeah,
which is totally unfair. If the
yeah,
rent is 1,500, of course there is someone who can afford 1,800. Yeah, I've seen that, but it's to be fair to everyone who applies to that property, the rent as advertised gives everyone the same chance.
yeah.
If they all
Absolutely.
qualify for their budget, they all have the same chance. And that's his level playing field for all the tenants. With the bidding wars, what you have, I've called it in my article on Rent Happily, the survival of the fittest.
Yeah,
Is a Darwinian game where the most affluent one will win. What is that for selection criteria?
yeah. That's no good. And yeah,
That's ending.
yeah. So, what would your advice be to someone? Because I mean, a lot of landlords become landlords accidentally, as in they get left a house in their parents' will or their grandparents' will, and
Yeah.
they become kind of unwitting landlords. So, what advice would you give
The,
someone in
yeah.
that situation?
Good question. So I call them casual landlord or unwilling, or they're called amateur or side landlord.
Yeah,
They are landlords who don't use an agent are the most of the market. Six, no, 5 out of 6, that's 85% of landlords manage their properties themselves. That's the
yeah,
vast majority. Okay. So there is my message to them is get an agent because the days where managing a property and renting out to tenants can be done on the side at the weekend or after my working hours won't work anymore. Is
how come?
not because the level of demand. Um, the laws, it's always been full of regulation. So we have about 400 different regulations out of 185 laws that we have to follow. Obviously, not every landlord will follow them because they don't
Won't
know.
know
They
them.
know, okay, there is lots of them. Even some agencies don't do some of those things.
Yeah.
I've faced it when taking on a property for other agents. I've done it many times, and you always pick up on something. So um, the thing is, the councils used to have what is called a discretionary license. So it started 12 years ago, and it was a power that councils were given if they were willing to, they could set a licensing scheme in their borough
Yeah.
and starts giving licenses against certain criteria. Okay, that started in Bristol 12
Yeah.
years ago.
Yeah.
It's called discretionary license because it's at the discretion of the council. They choose an award, or now Bristol is citywide. So we are all covered at the discretion of the council. So every single rented property has to go through. I, having said that, I know many landlords renting in Bristol who don't have a license and they get away with it
Mm.
because the council doesn't know
Yeah.
or doesn't have the power, the means to inspect every house.
Yeah.
What is changing is that from discretionary, the power of the council will become mandatory. They have a duty to enforce.
Mm.
And where will the means come from? Every single council to check every single rented house from the license fees, but also from the fines. They will get the dip, the first dip in the fines they'll collect. And the fines are going up. The reasons, the motives for fines are increasing widely. You can get a fine of 7,000 for putting an ad wrong.
Wow.
If you if you market a property out of there is a restricted period in certain cases, and if you market that property within that restricted period, the fine can be up to 40,000.
40,000.
40,000. So the first instance is 7,000. The second instance is 40,000.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes. So it's scaled, but it's not negotiable. So
Mm.
if you're fined, there is no, oh, but I didn't know. That is gone. That is gone.
Yeah.
If a tenant knows that their landlord is renting a property without the due license, the tenants will be induced to claim that because they will get a benefit from it. They will get what is called a rent repayment order.
Oh, wow.
It will be retroactive for up to 2 years and will get the tenants up to 2 years of rent repaid to them.
Wow. So you've got a £40,000 fine and you've got to potentially pay back 2 years worth of rent.
There are different offenses. No, for
Right.
the
Okay.
for the for the rent repayment order is only if you have an unlicensed property.
Right. Okay.
The council can also sue you if they found out you have an unlicensed property. But they are different channels. The tenant has full right on their claim. The council has a different right.
Yeah.
The one I said about the 40,000 was marketing a property outside of the restricted
Oh,
period.
okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And you have a list of 20 plus instances where you could get fined. You could get civil penalties, you could get ombudsman awards, you could get even, yeah, you could get fines as well.
Wow.
And those will become the norm. And there is no way a landlord who manages a property or two, the average landlords in the UK, so out of those 85% of landlords who manage the properties themselves, the average has under 4 properties.
Yeah.
So very few take it as a business and actually manage it professionally.
Yeah. Yeah.
Most landlords do it and let's say it, get away with it and do it the best they can without wrong intention. I'm not,
Yeah.
I'm not,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
saying there is
Yeah. No,
ill
underhanded.
intention.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
No ill
Yeah.
intention. Those days are gone.
Yeah. Wow.
So it will become a minefield because that's exactly what the council will do. They will go
Yeah.
after those.
So just to be clear, this is for people renting out a whole property, not for people who have a lodger, say.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. A
Okay.
lodger is not under the banner
Yeah.
of that
Yeah.
regulation.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Tenancy
So
agreement.
yeah. So I can see now why you're saying that 85% of landlords who don't use an agent
Mm.
really it would be in their benefit to use an agent unless they are an expert like yourself, Boris, and know all the rules and regulations and laws that are governing.
Those are
renters.
called professional landlord. I know
Yeah,
quite a few of them. They
yeah,
don't require the service of an agency because they are their own agency themselves. They have
yeah,
sometimes someone and they know their business, so it's fine.
yeah, yeah. But it's just the people who like inherit houses or, stumble
Yes.
into being a
Mo
landlord unintentionally.
exactly. Most people or have a couple of properties because they invest for their old days, and I know many of those, and they
Yeah,
don't need more than a couple of properties, gives a bit of cash,
yeah,
builds itself up, and
yeah.
then it's good pension. There are loads of people like that who
Yeah, and I
invest
guess
in the long
also
term.
people who come together later in life, maybe, and they've both got their own properties, and they
Yeah,
maybe move into one and then they rent out the other one.
correct,
Yeah,
correct.
yeah,
Or they rent because they have to move for a job and they don't want to sell.
yeah,
There, yes, all sort of things.
yeah,
The get an agent and make sure they know what they're doing.
yeah, yeah. Oh, well, Boris, this has been a real eye-opener, and it's
Mm,
really so wonderful to know that the campaigning and the work that groups like Acorn have done over the last few years has really resulted in some major changes because, I know Acorn and there were other groups around the UK that have been
yeah,
on board with this as well. They've been like really campaigning with members of parliament and with letting agents and everyone involved, all the stakeholders, to get things changed so that it becomes a much fairer system and a safer system as well. Because, I think, the licensing and now the mandatory regulations that have come in across the board make the living conditions a lot safer for renters as well. So that's really good to know. And that,
that's the purpose.
yeah, and that you're there leading the way, Boris. That's really fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, it's
So, yeah. So if anyone wants to get in touch with Boris, because maybe you've just inherited a property, or maybe you've just moved into your partner's house and you're thinking of renting yours out, and now you realize, oh, there's more to it than just sticking an ad in the local paper, then I will put Boris's contact details in the show notes and you can check
fabulous.
out how he does what he does and have a conversation. Fantastic.
Excellent. Looking
Thank
forward
you
to it.
so much for joining me, Boris. And
Thank you, James. It's been
remember,
very pleasant.
everyone, like and subscribe. I hope you're enjoying this new series so far. Take care. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.